Welcome to Off Topic with Mike and JD. I'm JD.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome to the show. So today we're going to talk about The Mandalorian Season 3.
Otherwise known as the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes. So as usual, we'll have a non-spoiler discussion before giving a big spoiler warning and going into spoilers. So, for the non-spoiler part, I have extremely mixed feelings about this show. Like, as Season 3 of The Mandalorian, I like it. As a show that's supposed to be about Boba Fett. I do not like it because it is not a show about Boba Fett. At least not a large chunk of it. What's your general opinion of it?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Let me preface this by saying, I went into this show with very low expectations because I have never been a person... I am a diehard Star Wars fan, as anyone who's seen the previous episodes of the show can attest. But I just never cared about Boba Fett. Yeah, he has cool armor and he, looks awesome. But, he never does anything in the original trilogy. And, he, does some cool stuff in some of the Legends books. But, I don't know. He just was never a character that appealed to me. So when they said, oh, he's getting his own show, I was like, okay, well, I liked him in that small dose of, that one Mandalorian episode. So I'm like, maybe this could be a cool show. So I had low very expectations going in. But then, basically what you said is my overall feelings. Every episode I felt had a cool moment where I was like, wow, this is a cool Star Wars moment. But as a whole package, it didn't add up to anything. I felt like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Part of it was felt like The Mandalorian. Part of it was this other side story. The Robert Rodriguez kept saying, "Oh, this story it's the Star Wars version of The Godfather," and that absolutely never happened for me. Not just in terms of quality, but just I didn't if you asked me to summarize the story of this, I couldn't even really tell you what it was because we'll talk about it more in spoilers, but I don't even know who the character of Boba Fett is. I couldn't even tell you what traits define the character of Boba Fett, and after having watched 7-hour-long episodes of the show, I feel like I should have a grasp on who the character Boba Fett is and what he wants, but that's just my loose thoughts. So, much like you, I think I'm happy it exists because it has some really cool moments, but as a standalone show, and in fact, we'll get into it in spoilers, I actually think it retroactively makes parts of The Mandalorian worse. So, I think it's a net negative, even though it was a really cool show.
Yeah, great acting overall. Timon Morrison, his performance was fine. What he was given with, he worked fine. And Ming-Na Wen is a legend. Ming-Na Wen is absolutely perfect in what she's given. But even her, she's awesome. Her character is awesome, but we don't know anything really about her character. There's no meat. A lot. I guess. They give us a lot. It's actually, in a way, kind of fitting. Because how Boba Fett is this character that has, like you said before, he looks cool. And that's all there was originally to him. And that's what a lot of the show kind of was. A lot of things that look cool, but no real substance to it.
Exactly.
So, in a way, it's kind of fitting. And though, I do hate, though, how people are saying, oh, they ruined Boba Fett. It's yes, he has some personality in the expanded universe, but in the original trilogy, Boba Fett has no personality. People like to assign their own personality to him, but that's not canon. That's what you think of him. Canon-wise, the original trilogy, he's nothing. He might as well be a droid. Is he a cool-looking droid? Yes, but he has no feelings, he has no emotion. So I am fine with the personality, now they try to give to him, okay, But people are like, oh, he should have been more of an anti-hero. Like, I was fine with him being an overall good person. I was just, they just didn't give him enough, defining moments to show that. I was fine with what the goal was. I just don't feel they portrayed that goal right, I guess is the way I would put it.
Right. I don't want to go too much into spoilers yet, but yeah, I agree with you. I think my problem was that I didn't feel anything from him. So, like you said, Tamara Morrison, awesome. I love him as an actor. I thought he portrayed everything really well. So this is not on him, just the writing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just this character seems completely incongruous with the little that we do know about Boba Fett. I'm fine with, any personality they give him, because you can't have an entire series based around a character that doesn't say anything. But I just felt like they made him a heroic character, but then they didn't take him on a journey to get there. He goes on a journey, but I didn't feel a redemptive arc at all. It was just he comes out. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler alert to say he gets out of the Sarlacc pit, because that's where we left him.
No, that's not spoiler. That's not spoiler.
But, he gets out of the Sarlacc pit, and then he's just a good guy. He's just an honorable man. And he keeps saying, again, this is in the trailers, he's like, I'm going to be a crime lord. I'm going to rule with respect as a crime lord. And it just, I don't know. He seems like a good person, but he used to work for Darth Vader and, has a Wookiee pelt on, his, hanging off of his, braided thing from his original armor. I don't know, he just seems okay, I wish if he was I got out of the pit and, I took a hard look in the mirror and I realized I used to be a terrible person and now I want to be good. I'm okay, that's an interesting story of a guy who used to be terrible, and then he realized he had a near-death experience and he realized he wanted to be a good person. But that's not what this is. He's just good. He's just a good person. And I never felt
I get what you're saying.
And only one character in the entire show, who is I guess the main villain, is the only character to ever reference the fact that he did used to be a terrible person. Everyone else just treats him as a straight-up good guy. So that was my only problem. Is if he was gonna be a good guy, I wanted to see him evolve from that cold-blooded bounty hunter into this honorable warrior, instead of just being fully formed, kind of right out of the Sarlacc pit.
Alright, so that sets up something that I wanted to discuss, but now we have to go into spoilers to do that. So, spoiler warning, we're gonna spoil the entire series, so if you haven't seen it yet and you want to, don't watch the rest of the video. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, and I 100% agree with you saying, and they do start to set it up with its time with the Tusken Raiders. They start to set it up, but then they never go through with it. Also because, he had, the Tusken Raiders, his time with the Tusken Raiders seems like this big defining moment for him. Then they all die. And that was just kind of it. They died and he was like, yeah, they're dead. He didn't even personally seek revenge against them. When he found out that it was these people, he let Fennec go after them. It was just, yeah, it was a great setup that they didn't fulfill with, though.
Right, well,
That about how...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with you, yeah. It could have explained why he became more heroic, especially when, because the Tusken Raiders have also often been portrayed as savages, these, basically, they've been portrayed as either unintelligent or just downright evil creatures. It's only lately that there's been a lot more nuance in their portrayal, and, this added, I like this, and it's these people who everyone views as savages, they helped me. These are good people, despite what people think about them. So just because people think I'm a bad guy doesn't mean I actually have to be a bad guy.
Right.
I would have loved to actually see that on screen.
It's funny, you wouldn't think, the second episode, I think, is one of the strongest episodes in the show, because you completely don't expect where this is going. And then the Tusken Raiders are so interesting. And I'm like, wow, this whole like idea that they have like a tribal right to Tatooine because they were there when it used to be like rich with oceans, and like that's all really interesting. Mm. They made me care about Tusken Raiders, who are like, background danger from like earlier movies, and it really gives you a little bit more pathos when you go back and watch episode 2 and Anakin like slaughters a bunch of,
yes.
when he goes and slaughters the Tusken Raiders. Like when you think of them as like mindless creatures, then it's just like, whatever. He like, I mean, not whatever, but like it's more like he's killing animals, which is cruel, but it gives you a lot more pathos when you see them as like real characters that are murdered.
Exactly.
And so I thought that was really cool, and especially when I heard some of the behind-the-scenes things, like Tamara Morrison brought a lot of his like culture to like that tribal dance they do when he built the gaffy stick. Even the weird like
that's cool.
Vision quests, he gets high and like makes his gaffy stick. Like it was all really cool. I liked it, and then you're right, they just die, and then they kind of move on from that. But I just. Yeah. There are 2 moments. First, Fennec around the campfire, and then later, Cad Bane. Now that we're in spoilers, I can say Cad Bane is a major villain here, which, by the way, beautifully rendered in live action.
Yeah, well, actually, I just want to say something about that. Like, there was some, like, I'm fixing him to look more like he did in the Clone Wars. But and now this is not my original thought, but people pointed out that he looks different because... Of course he looks different. Clone Wars was stylized animation. Like, if you look at Count Dooku Big is perfect example.
His forehead.
His head is not a realistic proportion. So it's like... that just, kind of like shows the more annoying side of the fandom. Like, oh, he doesn't look exactly the same. It's like, of course he doesn't. This is they're turning... And a live action, from animation. They're not going to look exactly the same. It's not like let's make him purple instead.
Right.
They kept all the defining features. They just, shifted some things around to make it look better in live actions.
Yeah,
But anyway, go on.
No, that could have looked really silly, and the fact that it didn't, it was awesome. Mm. And also, not for nothing, Cad Bane is 70 now, so like who knows how Duros is age? Maybe they look like different when they get older.
That is a very valid point.
But to my original point, like at one point Fennec says like, "Oh, what do you want?" And like later Cad Bane says like, "What's your angle?" And those moments I kind of like perked up a little bit. I'm like, oh, if we finally get to figure it out. But he kind of gives like non-answers. He says like, oh, I don't want to work for idiots anymore, and I learned the value of like family. But like being a crime lord is such like a specific thing that like why did he want to be a crime lord? Why did he want to be the crime lord of Jabba's place? Like, did he feel like, oh... And then at one point he's like, oh, I want to get revenge on Bib Fortuna who betrayed me. When did Bib Fortuna...
But how did Bib betray him?
When did Bib betray him?
Yeah.
He fell into the Sarlacc pit. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, like his bitterness against Bib Fortuna was kind of unexplained. When Bib Fortuna... you could say he was out of fear, but when Bib Fortuna saw him, he was like, hey, Boba, you're alive. And then Boba just kills him. It's like... I'm not saying I feel bad for Bib Fortuna because, like, 1, he's a nobody character, but 2, he's not a good person. So I don't feel bad for him, but, like, yeah, he's getting, like, giving him, like, an unfair, like, oh, he was mean to me. It was like, no, he wasn't. He just thought you were dead, like everyone did. And so, yeah, he kept your ship because he's like, he's dead. He has no family. I'm not going to let the ship go to waste.
Yeah, exactly. So I wish I knew why he wanted to be a crime lord. And in what way is he even a crime lord? Like, we don't see him do any crime lord related things. Like...
Except for collect payments. That's it.
He collects...
His protection fees.
He collects protection fees, but, like...
And that's it.
Yeah, and he, like, forces them to get, like, that one guy to give water to, like, the street gangs. But, like...
Yeah, but really... He's the government. He's charging taxes, making people set fair prices. He's really just being a government.
Yeah,
like, he's not being a crime lord.
It seems more like he's being the mayor than the actual mayor.
Exactly.
The mayor was more of a crime lord than Boba Fett was. So that's why I didn't really understand this like idea, and especially like when later on other characters get involved with like, you know, between Mando and the other people, and they're like, oh yeah, we got to help Boba Fett. Like, why? Like, so he can be a crime lord? Like, Jabba was awful. Like, just because Boba Fett is like less awful, I guess. I just didn't understand why. Like, everything that happened was cool. I just didn't understand why any character was acting the way they were. You know? And then just my last point, and then I'll throw it back to you, is like, yeah, just every conversation felt just very scripted, like, okay, this needs to happen because I wrote it this way. Like, you know, characters like the Hutt twins were introduced and then they went away, and then like, you know,
yeah, well, what was their point?
What was the point of that?
What was the point of that?
You know, like, you know, Black Chrysanthemum like was like, oh, I'm gonna kill you, Boba Fett, and now I'm gonna rip the arms off this Trandoshan, and I guess then I'm gonna join you because you didn't kill me. Yeah. I didn't feel like any character was behaving like a three-dimensional character. They were just doing the plot of the Book of Boba Fett.
And what even was the Pike Syndicate? Like, well, what were they? Why was everybody so afraid of them? Why did the Hutt leave Tatooine because of them?
Right, like,
what the heck were they?
I haven't watched the Clone Wars in a very long time, but I know they were like from the Clone Wars. But I know there was a lot of speculation early on about like, oh, maybe like Kira and the Black, you know, the Crimson Dawn's going to show up or something. And I was just like, oh yeah, 100%. Like, there's no way they'd make the Pike Syndicate like the final boss of the Book of Boba Fett. But no, they were. The Pike Syndicate was like the big nemesis of Boba Fett. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're random fish people who everyone's scared of. But, like, the Hutt cartel seemed so much scarier than the Pikes.
Yeah. And originally, they weren't even that scary. Like, when we first... Like, I actually did not realize that the fish people were the Pikes. Like, wait, like, I'm like, wait, that guy? He's the big bad? Because, like, he seemed so not a threat when he's like, hey, yeah, I'll either pay the Sand people or I'll pay the biker gang. I'm just not paying both of them. I'm like, okay, that's a reasonable criminal. Like, I'm only paying one set of protection fees. That's, like, he didn't seem like this big bad. Like, if the Pike Syndicate is supposed to be so bad, why is he paying any protection fees?
Right.
Like, how are these the big bads? Why are the Hutts even afraid of them? Like, it made no sense.
Right, when the Hutts like were like, oh, we didn't realize that someone else had a claim. I'm like, oh yeah, it's got to be like Darth Maul or somebody like crazy high up the food chain that like even the Hutts are scared. But it was just the Pikes.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why the Hutts were like apologized for like trying to kill Boba Fett, and they're like, oh, we're sorry, here, have this Rancor. And it was like, okay, yeah, I get that you want to introduce the Rancor as a concept because it's cool to see Boba Fett riding a Rancor, but like, I don't know, it just felt like nothing happened for a reason, it just happened.
Yeah. And speaking of Rancor, I do love like the whole idea that, to me, I mean, they're basically pit bulls, like, oh, they're good at fighting, that's what they're known for, but they're actually really peaceful. I love that idea, that...
Perfectly...
I love that idea about them.
Perfectly delivered by Danny Trejo.
Yes. Who actually loves pit bulls, so it's perfectly all fitted, but like, I don't like how we meet the Rancor, and then suddenly Boba Fett is riding the Rancor. Like, we didn't get to see them form a bond, like, I love animals in movies, I love it. I love it when they have like a space dog. I absolutely love that stuff. But like they just skipped all the bonding. Like I'm not saying that should have been the whole show, but there should have been, you know, in like every episode there should have been like, you know, here's a scene of him doing something with it. You know, just like, you know, a quick 2-minute scene to build up to him riding on it in the finale.
Right. Like Danny Trejo's like, oh, it will take tons of discipline and training to ride the Rancor. And then we never see any of that. And I'm like, even a montage or something. And then he's like, oh, what are we gonna name you? And he's like scratching it behind the ears. And what are you gonna name him? Because we never find out.
Yeah, like it was so much potential with that, and they just did not deliver on that.
Like, it was cool. I'm glad we at least got to see a bride to Rancor, because that would have been a huge disappointment if we didn't. But I don't know. It just. And then I guess leaping ahead to the final battle, like the final battle, the droids, that use of the concept art droidicas, that was really cool. I like that. But why?
Oh yeah.
But why didn't?
Great action there.
Why didn't Boba just go get his ship and just kill everybody there? I don't know why he went and got the Rancor instead of like the slave one.
Like, I'm not gonna flee. I'm like, you don't have to flee on the ship. The ship could fly here.
Like, I just felt like Boba Fett just forgot all tactics. He's like, yeah, we're gonna stay right here in this abandoned like bar that was destroyed, instead of going to a secure location.
But you know what? To be fair, that's kind of on brand for Star Wars. Is, hey, instead of doing the logical thing, let's do the thing that will look the coolest. Like, Star Wars has done that before. They'll do that again. Like, I'll let them get away with that because at least it looked cool.
I guess in a sense, but I was just like, why did he just spread his whole team out? Like, it was kind of weird because I was like, all right, if Boba Fett's supposed to be this crime lord, like, you don't see Jabba like fighting hand to hand. So it was just weird that like his army was like 4 guys. It just...
Yeah.
I felt like he should have had some more muscle. But Fennec Shand literally had to be like, excuse me, Boba Fett, like, you have a lot of money. You could hire people to work for you. And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot that you could do that. So...
But I do want to address what I felt was simultaneously the best part of the series and the worst part of the series. And that was the
Mandalorian.
The 5th and 6th episode. Exactly. Like, it was the worst part in one way because you take it, the two of the last 3 episodes, and Boba Fett's in literally 2 minutes of one of them. So, in that regard, it was terrible. Ruined the narrative wasn't that good to begin with, but you made it even worse by just taking us away from it for so far. So, on one hand, it's the worst thing about the show. On the other hand, they were just awesome episodes of The Mandalorian.
Yeah. No, that's a huge problem. Those 2 episodes were easily the best. I mean, like, between Luke Skywalker and, like, the temple and Ahsoka, and everything was just amazing. Those were the 2 best episodes. But there were obviously episodes of The Mandalorian that were just cut out and inserted, and it simultaneously made both shows worse. Like, I get that there's cross synergy. Like, understand it's like, oh, well, you want, like, with Marvel, if you watch WandaVision, you want to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier. But they don't just cut one episode out of Falcon and Winter Soldier and drop it in the middle of WandaVision.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was fine, the Mandalorian being in the last episode. Like, oh, okay, yeah, Boba Fett recruited him, but it's like, that's fine, but his story should not be taken over. And not being what everybody is talking about.
Right, and then it simultaneously makes it worse for the experience of watching The Mandalorian, because the Book of Boba Fett, on balance, isn't that good. And now, if you're like, oh, I'm a fan of Mandalorian, I want to watch The Mandalorian, you have to watch the Book of Boba Fett, because it would be confusing if suddenly Grogu's back with The Mandalorian, which I think takes a lot away from the heartfelt ending of Season 2, because if you just start Season 3, he's just, oh, I guess he's back. Like... Yeah,
which is a conversation I had to have with my sister and brother-in-law, because they love The Mandalorian. They weren't really interested in Boba Fett. I'm like, well, you gotta at least watch the last 3 episodes, or else you'll be totally confused next season of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And it's true, it's like, it shouldn't be that way, Like
I said, I like the crossover of, like, sure, you can have the Mandalorian in there, so it's, like, teasing people to go watch your other shows. But don't make it so that it's just confusing for everyone who's trying to watch them.
Exactly. Like, like I said, I really like this storyline. I like how you're starting to see that, maybe he's not so. He's starting to think there's more than one way to be a Mandalorian. Like, he made it, he took off his helmet, but notably, he did not give up his armor. Like, technically that's what he should have done if he was following the religion. He should have given up his armor there. But he didn't. And I love this, I love the character development of Mando in these episodes.
Yeah.
I love seeing him learn the Darksaber.
And it was
I love Grogu. I mean, in case you couldn't tell by my hat, my shirt, these things behind me. But yeah, I love Grogu.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Like, it was so cool seeing him and Luke and, like, him training more. Like, I was cool to see him do more than just look cute and, like, actually kind of evolve a little bit. And, you know, I was surprised with how much we got of him.
Yeah, I love that he made the decision to leave. Like, it was, you know, I honestly did not know where that scene was going to go. And it was great that I was satisfied with him going back. But, like, it was a great moment. Yeah, so I really did not know what decision he was going to make. And I honestly didn't think we were going to find out until the Mandalorian.
Yeah, me.
Mandalorian, what he chose, which, again, we shouldn't even see the choice be given to him until the Mandalorian. We definitely shouldn't have seen what he chose.
Right.
But regardless of that, though, I like that he chose to go back to Mando. I was kind of annoyed that Luke is enforcing the whole, Jedis can't have attachment things.
Yeah, that kind of...
Like, I know it's what they originally did, but it doesn't make sense for Luke to enforce that, because that's how he stopped Darth Vader, by making an attachment to him. We don't know when in canon he does this. We know, though, at some point he trains Leia, though, who is his sister, who has Han. Do we know if Ben was already born when he trained her as a Jedi?
We don't. Or, I mean, you might be able to piece it together from, like, the timeline. But the point is, Leia clearly had attachments when he trained her as a Jedi. So, and then eventually he trains Ben, his nephew. So, maybe, like, if we see more of younger Luke, we'll see how he decided the attachment rule was wrong, and they're explaining it. But right now, that does leave a big plot hole. Is that he's enforcing no attachment, yet he trained Leia anyway. Yeah, that really disappointed me to see that. And like you said, I do actually think that they are building to Ahsoka, because, I mean, clearly Ahsoka is not a Jedi. She abandoned the Jedi way because she thinks the Jedi rules are, you know, bad, you know, for reasons from the Clone Wars. But I think maybe during her show, Luke will kind of have a character arc where he finds a new balance of, okay, enforce some of the principles of the old Jedi, but, like, make it my own and make a new Jedi Order. And I think that might carry through. It depends on how much they actually want to do with, like, you know, are we going to basically... Because then you get into the sequel territory. We know his school has to be destroyed, which is kind of why we knew that Grogu couldn't choose Luke, because Disney was never going to let, you know, Ben Solo kill Grogu. So, you know. But also going forward, stop with this digitally recreated Mark Hamill. Just cast Sebastian Stan as Luke already, and be done with this CGI nonsense. Although, to be fair, it was significantly better this time around than it was last time.
Yeah, it was better, but still, it's like, no. Just cast a younger actor, namely Sebastian Stan, who Mark Hamill has even signed off, basically, for him to play Luke. So just, like, not officially, but he openly acknowledged how much they look alike. Like, so it's just like, just cast him already. Like, yes, it looked better, but still, there's just no need to recreate digitally an actor.
I mean,
it's just unnecessary.
I agree with you, but I feel like they're too far down the path. They've invested so much in this technology. Like, if you were gonna introduce a new actor as Luke Skywalker at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, when all this awesome stuff is going down, and then Luke pulls off his hood, that's the moment to reveal the new Luke Skywalker. It would be weird.
Well, actually,
it would be weird if it's like, oh, okay, we're doing CGI recreation, and then suddenly it's Sebastian Stan.
Well, actually, see, I get why they did the CGI recreation for the end of Mandalorian, because they wanted to hammer home that, hey, it's Luke. Like, and because they were so secretive about him even being in the show. But see, now that it's not a secret, they could just be like, hey, we cast Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker. They don't have to be all secretive about it.
Yeah.
And then, because also, if it was Sebastian Stan there, we'd be like, wait, is it Luke? There'd be that moment of confusion. The CGI-ness, why it looked bad, it was clear who it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I like I said, while I 100% agree with you that that's the route they probably should go, I actually think we're going to see the complete opposite. I am 1,000% waiting for the deep fake of Han, and I'm 1,000% waiting for the deep fake of Leia. The Leia one's going to be the trickiest one, but...
Well, we're not going to see a deep fake of Han. They already cast young Han.
But if this isn't young Han, this is Return of the Jedi Han. They're not going to cross the streams with Alden playing Han Solo, especially.
I think they would. I think they would have him aged up a little bit, which is much easier to do. And Harrison Ford is not going to return for a show. He's not.
Yeah, but you don't need him to.
Yeah, but you need him to sign off on it. I think they're gonna use. They're gonna use the other guy.
Like I said, I'm all for it. I hope I'm wrong, and that in the future we see Alden and
Billy Lord for
Billy
Leia.
Lord for Leia, and Sebastian Stan or somebody for Luke. But I really
Billy Lord was actually the stand-in for Leia in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, no, and I think she will be again when they deepfake Leia in the future.
But yeah,
because I do think I mean this kind of goes beyond the Book of Boba Fett to the speculation of there's some kind of gathering storm of characters. I think at the end of the day they're going to do the Thrawn trilogy, or at least as close as we can in new canon, and they're going to have the original 3 back together again.
Oh. Well, like I said, if they do, they should do new actors, not these stupid deepfakes.
I just think, like I said, I hope you're right, but I think they've invested so much money in this technology that they don't want to go back.
And can we see some more Donald Glover Lando, please? Because he was perfect in that role.
If they ever do a like younger Lando, it had better be Donald Glover, because
there's a Lando series in development. I don't know what stage of development it is, though they never even announced, is it Donald Glover, is it Billy D. Like, I don't think they mentioned it was in development. They never said, though, when the timeline it was going to take place.
I think I don't know if this was ever confirmed or if it was just a rumor, but I think the idea was it was going to be like Young Indiana Jones, where it was going to start with Billy D. Williams' Lando, and then he would be like telling you the Calrissian Chronicles, and it would cut to younger Lando. Because I think Billy D. Williams is...
That I would love. I would love
Billy
that.
D. Williams is almost retired, so he's either not going to be in it, or he's going to be, like, just introducing it. I don't think... Unless, again, they go deep fake or something, there's no way he could do any sort of action sequence. He could barely stand, honestly, like, to do the scenes that he was in. But that's why he's seated in so many of the scenes that, like in Rise of Skywalker. So, but we'll see. Circling back to the Book of Boba Fett, I think you put it best.
We got off topic?
I know, right? Very on brand for us. Off topic, on brand. I think this show is a cool novelty stepping stone. I don't want a season 2. I'm happy I saw it, but I think they did themselves a disservice by not just picking one villain, one story, and telling that instead of just kind of making a mishmash of action figures.
See, it's funny how you say you want a season 2. I actually kind of do want a season 2 because I want them to do it right. Like I don't want another season of this. No, I want a second season where it's actually all about Boba Fett and they actually give him character development. So I would be down for a second season if they do it right though this time and not just do the same thing they did this time which is like no clear story arc.
I just feel like they used like it kind of similar to how I feel about some of the sequel trilogy stuff. I just feel like they already used up the interesting story beats. Like we saw him escape from the Sarlacc. We saw him like usurp Jabba's empire. He's the crime lord now. Like we saw all the flashbacks.
Like what else can he do now? I get it.
It's not that I mean, you slap Star Wars on something, I'll watch it. So if there is a season 2, I'm in. But in terms of like, if you ask me like, oh, if they announced it tomorrow, would I be at all excited? I wasn't even excited for the first one, so I'd be like negative excited for the second one.
Yeah.
I'm just like, unless you're gonna give me more episodes like 5 and 6, but then at that point you're just giving me the Mandalorian again.
No, well, then you're just giving me Mandalorian.
So that's my thought.
Maybe he'll show up. Wait, I would love it though if one episode of season 3 of the Mandalorian is dedicated all to Boba Fett.
I actually
just to balance things.
That's actually a fair point. I actually wish the story of the Book of Boba Fett, I think, could have been really cool if you retooled it to be told over the course of a season of The Mandalorian. Like, I'm fine having Boba Fett be a recurring character. Like, he doesn't get his own show. Because he was awesome in that one episode of The Mandalorian. I'm like, yeah, just give me more of that.
Well, yeah.
Like, sprinkled in.
Like, some people propose calling it The Mandalorian Presents Book of Boba Fett. Like, making it The Mandalorian and the subtitle Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
Which I think that would have made more sense because then it wouldn't have felt as off track when they did those Mandalorian episodes.
Exactly. If it literally was Mandalorian Season 2.5, because Boba Fett, I mean, while not technically a Mandalorian, he is of Mandalorian origin, so it would have made sense to be like Tales from the Mandalorian, like, you know. Then I'm into it.
Or just call it the Mandalorian, like subtitle the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. I think that would have been a great idea. It's
like it would have worked much better because I mean there would still be the other storytelling issues we had, but at least it wouldn't be the whole why are we getting the whole this Din Djarin's content in here.
Right. I mean, to me, it seems like Star Wars' biggest problem is managing expectations. Like, between the sequels and the shows, it seems like the biggest problem they have is that they're not marketing things in a way that sets people up for what they're actually getting. So everyone in their mind is like, oh, this could happen, this is going to happen, I want to see this, I want to see that. Like, well,
the internet is terrible for Star Wars. Like, I mean, not even getting into the toxic fan base, which I'm not getting into that, but it's one of the most toxic fan bases there is. But just in general, all the theories, it's fun to theorize, but then people get, well, especially with Star Wars, people get too offended when their theory isn't what ends up being true.
Right.
True, Star Wars. Like, that's why nobody liked Wait Nobody. It was great storytelling, but you know, it didn't fit their headcanon. And that's why people didn't like it. Not because the storytelling was bad, but because you were like, she's gonna be Obi-Wan's daughter, and you were disappointed because that's what you set yourself up for.
See, I would say that, except for the fact that, you know, this is, you know, I disagree somewhat. I think that, yes, to a point, fans create their own disappointment when they think their theory is going to be true and they get too into their own headcanon. But on the other hand, I think, you know, certain things like Boba Fett being the main character of the Book of Boba Fett. Like, there are some things...
Well, that's not headcanon.
No.
It's what you're supposed to do on a show.
But that's what I'm saying is... it's all the outside stuff. Like, if you looked at any of... Like, I'm sure you saw some of the interviews and stuff, like, outside content about Rey, and it's like, ooh, who is she? Who are her parents? Like, I don't know. Like, if they would have just called her Rey Nobody or Rey Smith or whatever, then that wouldn't have been a problem. Like, they feed this like speculation machine. Like, the context
but see,
is
that
there.
was the whole point, though. But see, with Rey Nobody, I thought that was the whole point, was to build it up to be something, and then I felt like that was the point. Like, you think she's somebody because she has to be somebody, because everybody in Star Wars is related to somebody.
But that's so like in the...
But wow, we're getting really off topic here, though.
Yeah, my larger point is just that I think Star Wars needs to be better at just telling you what you're getting. Like, what's on the box never matches what's inside, and like the stuff is good. Like, all of the content they have, the characters, the actors, the writers, the special effects, everything inside is awesome. And I think if they just were better at marketing it and saying, okay, hey, like, this is the kind of thing you should expect. Which is why I think everyone's so excited about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Watch, Obi-Wan Kenobi's going to be some, like, art piece film about him farming for 7 episodes. But
I'm very curious. What the heck is Obi-Wan Kenobi going to be about? Because it's like, I've always was under the impression that nothing happened during that time period. Like I know he watched Luke grow up, but like I really didn't think he did anything there.
Yeah.
During that time period, I thought he was just, like you said, farming. Like, so I am very curious about, what are you going to do, and how are you not going to make some holes in canon by doing this?
Yeah. No, they're going to have to tread very lightly to not mess with canon, because, like, like you said, basically they've told us, nothing happens in that time. So they're going to kind of sneak in one adventure. It's like, oh, well, nothing except that one time when I fought Darth Vader. Like, they're going to have to play very fast and loose with canon on that one. But I think the reason that people are excited is because it is more like, all right, we know we're going to get Ewan. We know kind of the general thing of what's going to happen. I mean, not like the plot, but I don't know. But
has Liam Neeson been
No, he's being very coy, and this is another one of those.
It will make complete sense for him to appear as a Force Ghost.
It would make complete sense, but then
they even don't they imply that at the end of episode 3 that he's gonna be
it's
training with his ghost?
It's actually even more than that. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous episode, but like in the script for episode 3, Qui-Gon does appear as a Force Ghost. But the scene was cut because Liam Neeson had a motorcycle accident, so he couldn't appear. So they just rewrote the scene to be like Yoda telling Obi-Wan that Qui-Gon can become a Force Ghost.
Yeah.
So
and it's been implied in edited materials. He invented Force Ghosts almost.
He did.
Hasn't that been implied, guys?
Yeah, it is. It is implied. So I'm just like, and I always was like, back in the day, I was like, oh, George, like, you're already making a special edition. Edit Liam Neeson in as a Force Ghost. So this is the
deepfake. They didn't have the deepfake back then.
This is our chance. Come on, Liam Neeson said he would do it. So let's make it happen.
But so I mean, I don't want him to be like a big part. But he should be making an appearance in it.
Yeah, he should be like Luke in The Mandalorian, or Luke in the Book of Boba Fett. That level of appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But circling back, I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts about the Book of Boba Fett?
Well, it's funny. I can't give this a number rating. I really can't, because like I love the Mandalorian episodes, but it went so off track. I cannot give it a number. I guess 7, but it's like not a hard 7 at all. What about you?
I would say if making the original caveat that, like, if somebody told me, oh, this is season 2.5 of The Mandalorian, this is Mandalorian : The Book of Boba Fett. If you told me that, then I would give this show an 8. Maybe a 7.5, because it was kind of weak at parts. But if without that caveat, I'd have to give it like a 6.5, maybe a 7. Because it just was all over the place. Like I said, cool stuff. If you ask me to, like, rate, this is a key example of the sum, like, the product being less than the sum of its parts. Like, every individual...
Yes,
like,
I definitely agree.
I watch every episode, I'm like, ooh, 8, 9, this is a cool episode, but they just didn't add up to anything, so...
I very much agree with what you're saying there. Alright. But I think we talked about Boba Fett and a bunch of other stuff that was totally off topic enough. I think we can call it a wrap.
Alright.
Alright. So, I'm still JD.
And until next time, I'm still Mike.
Goodbye.